What happens when society tells women to slow down as they age, but they choose to break barriers instead? Tania Lindo, today's guest, has done just that. Signed with the prestigious Elite Model Management, a global agency known for launching supermodels, Tania became a model at 46 while excelling as a highly successful salesperson. As a trusted advisor to the C-suite, she led impactful DEI initiatives across North America and the UK. Now, as she navigates a new career shift, we'll explore themes of women, aging, professional excellence, and defying expectations.
I'm Alexis Hood.
And I'm Amy Plurd.
And you're listening to Forks.
Tania, we're so happy to have you as our guest today.
Thank you. I'm thrilled to be here, ladies.
Well, we're excited to have you here. So thank you so much. We have so many things that we want to talk about today, but I wanted, and I thought it made sense if we started at the story that you told us about the moment that everything changed for you. A few years ago, Amy referenced it. When you were 46, you made a very interesting pivot. So maybe we could start at your fork.
Yeah, no, thank you. Wow, it was wild. So I was talking to this guy and he wanted to date, and that's a story for another podcast. But the essence of it was I wasn't interested in pursuing the relationship, but we were friends. Then he says to me one day, "You know, Tania, you're not getting any younger, you know. You're not always going to be beautiful." And it was like someone in real life on my phone, in my ear, actually is saying that thing out loud. Like the thing that we all know that as a society, you know, we see, we hear, we feel it as women all the time, but now it was really happening. And this is happening from someone I know. And this was happening to me. And what I mean by what was happening is you were actually weaponizing my age against me and using it as a tool to frighten me into dating you, because heaven forbid you become the lonely old cat lady.
Oh, gosh. This is the year of the lonely old cat lady,
This
isn't
is
it? Thanks, J.D. Vance.
Right? And prior to that, my son is actually a model, and his agency had asked me a few times, which I thought I did not take seriously, if I was interested in joining their roster. And I was like, no, this is a young girl's game. Like, you know, I have my corporate career. But that moment literally was like a declaration of war for me. And that's when I was like, okay, game on.
Mm.
And I felt like this was my opportunity to represent women who are in my age category at this season of life and kind of give a middle finger to this notion that after 40s or after X age, after 25 even, that we are no longer relevant or desirable or beautiful. Because what was happening here is what he was telling me is that he only associated beauty with youth. And if I, in my little jazz square of life, could help influence, whether it be men, women in my age category, younger women, younger men, just society overall, that this just isn't true. It's just not true. Like, you have to think I'm a badass in my 80s.
You will be.
Right? Like you just have to. And I want to feel that way. And it was probably less about him thinking that, but me believing that. And my encouragement to all women or anyone who feels as if age is this red X on our back, that no, we are pretty pretty badass, pretty cool.
I love that story so much. And you know, what you just said about him weaponizing your age, I mean, that really hit me.
Mm.
And because that's exactly what he was doing. I guess I'm wondering, because I think this would be true of myself. I'm not sure I would have even realized the extent to which I might have believed that based on my own social conditioning.
Yeah,
And was that the experience that, you know, like that's the mental process you were going through? Oh gosh, I've believed this.
100%.
And now I need to unbelieve this, unlearn this.
100%.
Right.
I'm really, really, really afraid of three things. Well, two now, because the first is cats. The second is water. I love to look at it, but I don't swim in it. I take fake pictures on beaches. And aging. And aging for me was just a huge fear. And when I hit my 40s, I remember there was this season where it was like weekly, where I was getting phone calls from friends who were in tears. I mean, riddled in tears because I'm 40 something, I haven't had a baby, or I'm 40 something and I haven't been married, or I'm 40 something and I've got crow's feet, or I'm 40 something and now I'm divorced and I don't know what to do. And it was just, we were all just feeling this angst about, you know, I've got my first few gray hairs and I've got wrinkles or cellulite, and looking in the mirror and just hating what we see.
Mm.
And I drank the purple Kool-Aid too. And having a grandmother who had also suffered, and may she rest in peace and power. She's recently passed away, but she had had a long battle with Alzheimer's. The idea of aging and losing my memories and losing connection to people was really frightening. And so this wasn't just a form of advocacy, me now fast forward, entering the modeling game for the world, but it was therapeutic for me. I really had to decide for myself, because I've got long genes. If I'm going to live to 96, I can't spend the next 50 years hating who I see in the mirror, or making anyone or any industry make me feel as if I don't matter anymore, or that I'm not sexy, cool, wonderful, adventurous, fun, that I don't wear bikinis or underwear or beautiful dresses and
Right.
and shorts and wedding gowns as well. Like, just every season of our journey has to be appreciated, has to be respected, and we have to own it. And I just decided I'm gonna own it. And I also needed for younger me to get that, and younger girls to see that it's not so scary up here.
Mm-hmm.
It's like second puberty, which the first puberty wasn't fun either. So there's parts of it that, yes, ache and
We have our own cars.
crackle, but we have our own cars. You're right. And we have our own bank accounts, and we have agency, and it's pretty liberating when you get here. So I'm still afraid of cats and water, but aging, not so much.
And how did that transformation feel? Because I'm assuming it didn't happen as soon as you signed the
Yeah.
papers. Like, that was something that you had to work through. So what was the work involved, and how did it feel as you went through it and got through it?
I've been in various conversations in recent weeks, and I've been asked several times, like, what my superpower is, and I've never looked at it this way, except as I unpack it. I think it's that feel the fear and do it anyway. It's not easy when we are riddled with messages and images and a society in various arenas of our lived experience that affirm youth and disregard age. And it wasn't a smooth skate. You know, I kind of still would act as an advocate, whether it be through my agency or when speaking with photographers or makeup artists and stuff, that, yeah, I would never wear that. Now, I wouldn't say that to a designer, right? But I just knew that I wanted to represent more than this idea that at 40 something or 40 plus, that all we do is load dishwashers and take the kids to soccer. That that fashion and beauty and lifestyle at this age and stage of life is more than this box that we've been put in, right? And so it still was scary at first. At first I was still coloring my hair, and it was my agent, and I have to shout him out. It was my agent at the time who challenged me, stop coloring and try and rock your grays, because I had a head of grays. And I was like, no, I don't want to do that. But I did. And he said, just go out one day and just, go to the grocery store. And so he challenged me. So this was a man who was challenging me to do it. Right. And I did. And I remember the first time I did, I went to Sephora, and I'm at the checkout, and I'm just trying to be totally under the radar.
Yeah. Incognito.
And I have this, naturally, I don't have, no, your audience can't see, but I don't have much hair anymore. I've cut off my hair and that's another part of my year of transformation. But at the time I had this almost like a skunk, like I had a whole strip of gray at the front of my hair. So it was very prominent, and I'm checking out. And then I had gray all over as well, but this piece was really prominent. I call it my money piece. And I'm checking out at the Sephora counter, and she says to me, I love your hair. And like really loud, and I wanted the earth to swallow me whole, because I'm like, I'm just trying to be discreet here, and I'm just trying to get through the day showing gray hair. But I had to give my head a shake and thank her. It was like the universe just decided, let me affirm for you right now that you've put it out there and people now see it. And if you show it to them, maybe they see, and this was a younger person, this is probably someone in their 20s or teens, right? And that someone in this age category could look at my gray hair and say, I love your hair. I was like, okay, this works. Yeah. Representation really matters in this space, right?
The first thing that I'm thinking is you were encouraged to go to the grocery store, but you like leveled up to level 10 and went to Sephora. So first of all, I love that.
You were like, that vain, Alexis, and I needed my night cream.
Like, I am not going to No Frills today, friends. We are starting at Sephora. So that is already your confidence. I love that. It has been interesting. And I'm not sure how many years this has been, but certainly over the last few years, like when you reference this younger woman making that comment, there have been a lot of younger people dyeing their hair gray.
Yeah.
Spending many hundreds of dollars now to dye their hair silver.
Yeah.
And, and I think you're right. That is a part of the zeitgeist that's changing with that generation.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Yes.
Wow. That's incredible. So you've had this kind of first foray into owning your gray hair, your 40s. So I'm really curious about what it was like when you started modeling. What was that like?
I have to say that I was blessed that I had any opportunity that I was given. There were designers, whether it be in jewelry or beauty or gowns, who their demographic wasn't necessarily in my age category, which means they took a chance on age diversity. Mm. And that's what this form of advocacy in my world was about, that you're taking a chance that I can represent your product in spite of the fact that I'm not 22, right? And so I was really blessed that way, in that my agency found the right opportunities that, and of course there were many that I didn't book either. Many. You book a lot less than you do book. But I was also at a place in life where I have a corporate career, and I could also be discriminate about brands I wanted to work with, and or if the opportunity matched my value system or what I was trying to achieve here. Because I didn't want to perpetuate, again, these stereotypes around women in their 40s or 50s or 60s or whatnot. What I wanted to do is break through barriers of representing brands and parts of the beauty and fashion industry that we weren't being seen. And yet, like you said, we have our own cars and we have our own income and whatnot, and we're the ones who actually can afford to buy that purse and to buy that, right? So, and thankfully, we're just in a cycle right now in our lived experience where more and more brands are looking at all corners of diversity, whether it be age, body diversity, and complexion and hair texture and sexuality and or sexual orientation, disabilities. Like I have this great model colleague who has a disability, and to see her walk down the runway with her cane is, and that there are brands that don't see this as a risk to them, rather an asset to their brand is just beautiful. And that's the world I want to live in.
You set out with this desire to kind of fight back against that weaponization of your age. Do you think that you had this kind of sense of what you were trying to accomplish, everything you just described? Did it evolve, or did you have this kind of vision of what you were wanting to do? Or is this, looking back, you realized what you were doing? Like, how would you describe that?
I knew that was my intention.
Right.
Now, whether or not that was realistic or not, I always I have these pulse checks with my agency from time to time, is this realistic, what I'm trying to achieve? Like, should I even be in this space? Right. Because this is what I want to achieve. Like, I'm not here to be a supermodel. I know I'm no Naomi Campbell, and I'm not trying to make this my full-time job, but this is what I'm trying to achieve here. So I didn't know what to expect. And, industries can be fickle, and you take a chance on something and you hope for the best. And thankfully, like I said, I got opportunities to achieve that goal. Some opportunities were typical, but others were really based on what I was seeing in fashion and beauty and lifestyle brands, were really breaking barriers and really being more inclusive than they ever had been. And then you just start to see more of it. It's not where we'd all love to see it, but I always say there's slow drips to progress, and I'm proud to be part of it.
Yeah.
Just at its beginnings, and I'm taking a current step back, but I'll probably jump back in when I grow up.
Well, and I think it's such an important contribution to that progress, because I see it, particularly since the pandemic, majority of my shopping is online, and I'm looking at who's wearing the clothing,
Right.
and trying to identify myself in that clothing. And so I never thought about it in my 20s, but now that I'm in my 40s, I'm thinking about it all the time. And if I see someone that looks like me, it's very helpful.
Correct.
And even if I see someone that doesn't just look like your typical 20-year-old model, that's helpful too. Like I like seeing that. So I'm certainly making choices based on what I see that brand doing with representation.
100%. I love to hear that, and I'm glad you have a platform that will let brands and your followers know that this is today's customer. Today's customer is looking for reflections of themselves and their full selves in the communities that we exist in, right? And your audience can't see me, but yeah, I'm 6 feet tall, all right? But there's people who aren't. And so, but we all exist.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing. And I think we are now at a juncture as consumers where we've got a lot of power in purchasing power.
Yeah.
Whereas we didn't before. Before, they were the ones who were feeding us the trends, and they still try it.
Yep.
But I think as I'm seeing more of especially as women, especially on this aging journey, that are coming into their own, we're deciding what's in. right?
Yes.
You can't tell me not to wear a mini skirt.
Yeah.
You can't tell me not to wear a plunging neckline. You just can't.
And you can't
Right.
tell me to wear those barrel jeans.
Right.
I am 5'3" and not a skinny person. I do not look good in the barrel jean.
I think you need to try them.
You know what? Actually, and I shouldn't say that. That was,
Yeah.
that's not
think you could-
the right mindset, is it?
But yeah, I think you're right, though. I think we're taking our power back in terms of how we want to present ourselves.
Yes.
And I think that is so important. And I hope that for my kids as well, like my daughter especially. I
Yeah.
want her to feel confident in what she feels confident in
Correct.
and not be influenced by this is what you have to wear, this is how you have to present.
Correct. And this is what your body needs to look like, and this is what your face needs to look like, or your hair. Like, honestly, and if she can get that, if our daughters and our sons and the people in our lives can get that, the sooner you get it, just the less miserable a life you will have. That
Yeah.
it took me into my 40s to get it. Wow, what a wasted. I think about how unkind I was to myself growing up. How much I hated my flat chest and my skinny legs, and I was here trying to be something that other people wanted and expected me to be. And when I stopped listening to the noise is when I was able to walk more in confidence, in acceptance of self. And now it's my confidence that people feel, and when they feel my energy. Because before, being 6 foot and like 13 years old wasn't easy, right? And I wanted to shrink, and I hunched, and I didn't want to be that person. And I didn't want to be the person who is still about a double A cup, right? But it's interesting when you get on that self-love journey, which again took me really into my 40s, and that confidence journey. Now the things that I used to hate about myself are the things that are so precious to me now. You really gotta force me to wear a bra now. And before I used to wear one just to make it look like I had something there. Now it's like these are like the favorite part of my body.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry I was so unkind to them.
Well, isn't that, I mean, first of all, for our listeners, a model just shared that they didn't always feel great about their body. And so it's all of us.
Yeah.
I mean, when I think of you talk about being unkind to yourself and that kind of self-talk, I'm that resonates with me so much, because I've been like, even today looking in the mirror as you're getting dressed, this I don't like about myself, or that I don't like about myself. And I often wonder, when am I going to get to that point where there's nothing left and you're just totally every day embracing all aspects of yourself? That is a huge work in progress for me, at least. But it is such an interesting thing. We're never happy, are we?
We never are. And I had to start talking to myself the way I would talk to my friend. Like, you wouldn't look at Amy and say, "Hey, I don't like this about you. I don't like your ears. I don't like your nose. I wish you would, put on or take off a couple pounds or put down that." You wouldn't say that to your best friend. Why would we
No.
say that to ourselves, right?
It's so true. And when you have children, Amy, to your point, and I have 2 girls, and this generation coming up is so interesting because they talk about things. I mean, my oldest is 22, and the things she comes back at me with that I did to perpetuate her body issues, things that even I'm thinking I'm so far ahead. And a lot of them that she has said are things that she could tell I was saying to myself. Oh, I don't want to wear that shirt because it's sleeveless and I don't love my arms. That kind of talk.
Right.
And your kids hear it and they see it, even if you're not saying it to them. Even if you like just that not owning it.
You just got to wake up one day and decide you're it. You're in.
This is it.
Right? You're in,
I know.
Alexis. Like, you are the next best thing, and really repeat it until you believe it.
And
because what else?
Yeah.
What else you gonna be?
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
Do you know what? I woke up one day and said, we're going to do a podcast. And we did.
And I see that in so many people who have that type of confidence, how attractive that is.
Yes.
So I think that's exactly it. you build that confidence, and it is that attractiveness. And so that's the key to it.
And there's something about your 40s too, I think. I remember being 39 and being at a work event, and my birthday was coming up the next week, and some colleagues were talking about, "Oh, you're turning 40 next week, right?" And I had a couple of glasses of wine and had said yes, and this is the first birthday where I felt like, "Oy, now I'm hitting my 40s," kind of like what you described.
Right.
Your conversation with your friends, and there were a few executives that had come by that were all, I think, over 50, and they had said, and they stopped me and said, "Oh, your 40s, you need to stop that. Your 40s, they're going to be the best." And I have to say, I'm 46 now, and I think my 40s have been my best decade.
Yes, girl.
Yeah.
I swear life begins after 40, like somehow, some kind of light bulb.
I call it the give no fucks 40.
Hey, there's none. They're out of all my pockets. I have nowhere to give. Right?
Yeah. Would you say that too?
I would, but I think I shared with you that I had someone once tell me that you become invisible as a woman in your 40s. And at the time I was in my 20s, late 20s, and it stuck with me. And so when I was hitting 40, I was thinking, I don't want to be invisible. Like, forget it. But yeah, like that, I still think about that. And so that kind of brings me to when we're talking about the corporate space and how age is perceived there, particularly for women. And I don't know how all of us here feel about how that's playing out in your jobs and your careers, but it's certainly something that I've been thinking about more now, because I used to be looking at the people I work with, particularly the managers and leaders I worked with, and I was younger. And now in some cases I'm older. And this is something that I think I'm just trying to navigate mentally on, what does that mean? Does that mean anything? And how am I being perceived in this space now that I'm getting older? And I do think there are ideas and stereotypes that I am kind of having to push up against.
Well, we've all drank the purple Kool-Aid, haven't we? Right? And I think the more we have conversations like this, and the more women like yourselves and myself and our colleagues move up within the workforce and get into leadership and decision-making positions, then they'll be empowered to, again, crack this code and decide, no, there is value here. There's experience here. There is mentorship here. There is opportunity here to learn from. I have people in my circle who are 20, 25 years my junior, who still look at me as a mentor. I've got about 3 mentees in my life, and I'm so privileged that they think there's something I can offer their life. But I always tell them, I learn just as much from you as you do from me. And I think intergenerational relationships are so necessary. Iron really sharpens iron when we take a moment to listen to each other and understand each other's lived experiences, that we send that elevator back down and pick people back up at all seasons of their life. As lifelong learners, we have to understand that this thing that you're talking about, it must be dismantled. And again, like I said, progress is a slow drip. And unfortunately, yes, we still have our own internal struggles, but decision makers are making decisions as well that can impact those biases from an age discrimination perspective. I had a Zoom job interview just today, and last night as I was prepping for it, I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to make sure my hair looks cool so that, because I fall into the trap as well. Not because I think so, because I know there could be biased eyes, right? And so what do I wear that doesn't age me? What do I wear that makes me look cool enough to be with your tech company? How do I wear my hair in a way and make sure it's on point so that they don't think that that's, she's a granny? and has nothing to add and isn't gonna understand the latest tech on the street. This is the baggage that we're carrying,
Yeah.
and it's real.
Mm-hmm.
It's real, and you have to be very intentional about not listening to those voices in my head, and just hoping that through laws of attraction, you attract the right opportunity, the right employer,
Mm-hmm.
the right agent, if it's modeling, or the right designer, and the right man or woman or partner, that won't hold these things against you. Because if we're so lucky to
Right.
experience birthday after birthday after birthday, then we're
Mm-hmm.
all going to go through this,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
We're all going to go through getting older, and the human experience involves some things like loss of blah 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 that creates
Yeah.
the blah blah blah, and we have to appreciate the beauty in it and the blessing in it without disparaging it. I make no room for disparaging one group in order to uplift another,
Mm-hmm.
right? I think there's room enough at the table for all of us, and to value all of our lived experiences and at
Yeah.
all ages and stages of life.
And how much richer are we for that? Those intergenerational conversations, connection, support. I just think that they bring so much to any organization or any group, to
100%.
have that. And I think you're so right. We need to support each other. We need to be always thoughtful of that, because that's the way that we do make progress and we do overcome those biases, stereotypes, ideas that we know aren't true.
100%.
Well, and it's just good business.
It's just good business.
I mean, I think I'd posted something the other day from a creator that I like, and she was talking about, hold on, everybody, DEI is not, this is not like a nice to do thing that just makes people feel good. This is good for business. Your business is better when it attracts the widest and greatest group of talent across all spectrums.
100%.
And, what we were just saying about customers as well. I am more likely to buy something when that website shows how those jeans look on someone who's a size 2 and a size 12.
That's right.
For me to be able to see. So all of these things, if we're all living in this capitalist society, and it's just good business sense as well.
100%. Yeah.
It's important. So I'd love to know about individuals that you think have helped embrace, you were talking about your agent, for example.
Mhm.
Individuals like that who, when you're asking that question that you described earlier, am I on the right path? Is this really what I should be doing? Is there space for this? What have those individuals done, said to make that journey easier for you, or build on that confidence? And I ask that because I'm hoping, as a leader myself, for leaders that might be listening to this, or anybody really, don't have to be a people manager, what are the things that have worked in your journey of building confidence?
Wow, good question. I mean, sometimes I'm just faking it, but keeping it all the way real. Like, again, just feeling the fear and doing it anyway. And then it always helps when you get affirmation from outside sources that you're on the right track. Like that, it doesn't hurt. We are part of the animal kingdom, and even the animal kingdom, when they fluff their feathers and walk around like peacocks, are looking for affirmation that, yeah, I got this. So it always helps. But I did know really the work had to start with me. It really, really, really had to start with me, because it could matter not if person X thought my gray hair and my crow's feet looked gorgeous if I didn't feel it, because I got to wake up in the morning and look at her. I think that's just my attitude now, after spending so much of my life not liking what I saw in the mirror and trying to please others. Loving me has become a priority, and loving me no matter my size and no matter my age and no matter the number of wrinkles and the wobbly bits that are starting to show up. And, that even after puberty and breastfeeding, these boobs didn't grow. loving me really had to be priority, because the rest, who cares?
Mm-hmm.
Who cares if I don't like what I see in the mirror? No one's going to care, so I might as well love it.
We so often encourage young people, like I encourage my kids to try things on because you're figuring out who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that is experimenting, is just doing different things to go, do I like this? Do I not like this? Is this feel like me? And then I feel like we don't allow ourselves to do that necessarily when we're older. We try to sort of set ourselves into, this is my identity, and we don't open ourselves to that same growth. And for me, I think we should be doing that. We should be continuing to evolve our identities and look for that growth. And I just think, yeah, like we should be acting more like we encourage our kids to act in
I
those
think
ways.
that's the secret sauce right there, right? To a long and fulfilling life is never losing that childlike energy that we do lose as
Mm-hmm.
as adults, but it's never too late to just take it back. That's why I said, yeah, maybe I've taken a break from modeling for now. Maybe I'll go back, and when I grow up, like, and I feel younger than I did in my 20s. I was an old soul, right?
Right.
I feel younger now, and I think it's because the weight of other people's opinions
Come off.
have come off of my back,
Yeah.
right?
It's the unlearning
Yeah.
makes us.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I know what you mean when I was saying that my 40s, that there was, I mean, you're kind of grappling with these feelings of getting older and
Yes.
how I look and the invisibility that you described, Amy. And then, but there is in the giving no fucks and getting rid of all of that.
Yep.
There is something in that, yeah, I do feel younger, or I feel like I'm able to do things and think about things in ways that I don't think I felt free in my 20s to even consider. Like the idea that you could go out and wear things that maybe weren't, quote, flattering,
Right.
or in whatever way that meant. All of those kinds of things.
100%.
Can we talk a little bit more about this year of transformation?
Some of it has been, I'm by nature, I'm in a lot of ways, I'm a creature of habit. In other ways, I'm just a free spirit. But in a lot of ways, it's been imposed upon me, and I'm trying to make lemonade out of lemons, right? Because you might as well, you're here. Aging and some of the things that have come with it for me, where, yes, it was time to pivot with the hair. And then soon thereafter, I too am in career transition now after nearly 2 decades with the same organization. And it's scary and it's exciting at the same time, and scary and sad, and all the things that kind of go with kind of laying a large chapter of your life to rest. There's been some loss of friendships as well. The older I get, the smaller the circle gets, it seems. And so that's been transformative as well, because there's been some really important chunks of what were my ecosystem. And I always say, if I were to ever write a book, it would be named Plot Twist. That would be the title, because as they say, make plans and God laughs. And now it's just trying to figure out the why and how to, again, reinvent oneself, and do so with kindness and with not too much worry, and more about just executing what are the next steps and what does this mean, and ask that my steps be ordered, and that and trust that the right things for me aren't going to pass me. And just again, it's no different than the body image or the beauty image or the age image conversation. It's a really this ongoing exercise of acceptance that, okay, we're here.
Yeah. I think having gone through the same kind of career transition myself this year, now that I've had some distance from that, it's been interesting to see how even these again, quote, negative things that happen in our lives do bring about, and that's really the theme of the podcast, Forks, is, you end up on this path and things happen that you don't expect. I'm so grateful that from that experience and asking myself, how did I get here? I've been able to have these experiences that I managed to bamboozle Amy into doing a podcast, which is really my finest work to date, and getting to meet people like yourself. And I mean, this is one of the best things that's happened to me. And yet, had I not gone through that difficult experience, had I then gotten a job that I thought I really wanted, even right after that didn't work out, and being really disappointed, it was really that moment that kind of led me here. So it's funny that the more you go through these things, these kind of transformations, and it's the more you kind of shed your expectations and all of that, you can be open to what happens next. But it's hard.
It is hard.
And we were talking about this before, the idea of the anticipation of the thing as well. The job loss being like the hurricane that comes through and knocks things down, but the worry about it being so much worse.
Yes.
Yeah, I experienced that.
Well, I am so proud of you too, and honored. Like when you reach, I'm like, me? What do you want to know about my story? Like, it's not that exciting. Like, but yeah, I wouldn't be here as well if you weren't going through it with the stories that you're telling, or that you're sharing, and that I'm sharing. You hope that at least one listener has an aha moment and can be inspired and motivated, and if nothing else, feel a little less alone on this walk on the big blue planet, right? Like,
absolutely.
we're all more alike than we are different. And a lot of people suffer in silence, thinking that it's only me who feels this way about my life or the missed buses of life. But we're all going through it. So thank you for feeling the fear and doing it anyway. And I'm excited for hearing the rest of more stories and where this is going to go for you two.
Well, thank you. You've been an inspiration for me since I met you, and of course, then I Googled you because that's the person I am, and then I saw the things you were doing, and it really influenced me. I reflected on it and thought, wow, like, she's so brave, and how can I be brave like that? So I hope you know what an inspiration you are. And when Alexis she didn't bamboozle me, but she put me in a situation where I had to reflect and think, I want to be brave. I want to do something like that, even though it's outside my comfort zone. And it is stories like yours that inspire someone like me to do that. And I know it inspires others. So thank you so much for bringing this conversation here today. And
I'm humbled. No, thank you.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you found inspiration here, please consider subscribing wherever you listen to podcasts and leaving us a 5-star review. It really helps us. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn.